Hello students, this is Ovijit Shah from Essences. So today we will discuss about our new history topic, Turkish invasions and the Delhi Sultanate. Okay, so let's see. The medieval period in India began with the invasion of Turks. Okay, so medieval period is started with the Turkish. Okay, by the end of 19th century CE, the imperial power of the Abbasid Empire began to decline. In that time, what happened? That the Abbasid Empire began to decline. Okay, and it disintegrated into several smaller Turkish kingdom, and it is distributed in some smaller Turkish kingdoms, and these Turkish rulers had served in the once mighty caliphate armies. Two important Turkish states were Ghazni and later Ghor. So two Turkish states are Ghazni and Ghor, and their rulers launched a series of invasions into the Indian subcontinent, paving way for the establishment of Muslim rule in India. And they tried to paving the Muslim rule in India. After the decline of the Gupta Empire, the next notable ruler in India was Harshavardhana, who reigned from 606 to 647 CE. After his death, his kingdom disintegrated into several small territories under different feudal lords without any unifying force. These kingdoms were constantly at war with each other over several petty issues. So one type of wars actually happened in between them, and this presents a perfect opportunity for foreign invaders to plunder the rich and diverse country of India. So this was the opportunity for the foreigner. Next is Turkish invasions. The Turks invaded, looted and plundered India repeatedly and established their power in the country. So Turkish, they plundered, invaded and looted from India, and two most notable invasions were led by the state Ghazni and Ghor. Okay, next is Muhammad of Ghazni. So Muhammad of Ghazni was an abolitionist and powerful Turkish sultan of the Ghaznavid dynasty. So he was very powerful, Muhammad of Ghazni. To fulfill his political ambitions, Sultan Muhammad needed money. So Muhammad needed money, and he was attacked by the immense riches in the temples of North India and with the loot from these temples, and the Sultan aimed to build a powerful army to expand his territorial kingdom in Central Asia. North India that at that time was divided between various Rajput clans and which were in conflict with each other. So at that time that North India was divided between various Rajput clans which were in conflict with each other. There was the conflict in between them. Taking advantage of this situation, Muhammad invaded India 17 times in the span of just 27 years between 1000 to 1027 CE. So in between this time, Muhammad invaded India 17 times within this short 27 years, and they looted its riches. They looted all the rich things, and initially he faced resistance from King Jaipal and later his son Anandapal. So next is Battle of Wavin I. Aihand, also known as Hind, was the capital of the Hindu Shahi king Jaipal, and his vast kingdom extended from near modern day Punjab to Afghanistan. And despite putting up stiff resistance, Muhammad of Ghazni defeated Jaipal, and he was forced to pay tribute, and humiliated by the defeat, King Jaipal immolated himself. And Battle of Waihind II. So after the death of Jaipal, his son Anandapal succeeded him as the ruler, and gaining the support and alliance of several powerful rulers of western and central India, Anandapal tried to defend his kingdom against Muhammad, and however all efforts proved futile as Muhammad of Ghazni defeated Anandapal and his allies. So the another battle is occurred, and later raids. So after initial victories, Muhammad of Ghazni focused on looting the temple of North India. So after that, Ghazni focused on the temples, and these temples were not just prayer houses but also held the most precious treasures of the town. And he invaded and plundered rich cities like Mathura, Nagarkot, Kangra, Thaneshwar and Kanauj. And in each of his invasions, he destroyed every temple and looted his treasurer. Okay. And however, the most significant of Muhammad's attack was the loot of the temple of Somnath. He also looted the Somnath temple, famed for its riches, and after 3 days of fierce fighting, Muhammad defeated the Rajput army of 50,000 soldiers and returned home with immense wealth. Though Muhammad was successful in subjugating Indian kingdoms, he had no ambition of establishing his rule in India, and he was only interested in the treasures of India, which he used to beautifully the city of Ghazni and his capital, and financing his conquest in Central Asia. Muhammad was known as bandit and idol breaker owing to his numerous loots in India. After his death, the Ghaznavid Empire disintegrated, and by the end of 12th century CE, 5 major kingdoms were prevalent in North India, and these were the Chauhans of Delhi, Ajmer and Rathors in Kanauj, the Chandelas in Bundelkhand, the Solankis of Gujarat and the Paramaras in Malwa. It was during this period that India faced another Turkish invasion, that of Muhammad Ghori. So what happened, that these were that by the end of 12th century CE, 5 major kingdoms were prevalent in North India. They are these: Chauhans, Rathors, Chandelas, Solankis and Paramaras. Next is Muhammad of Ghor. Ghor, a province near the city of Ghazni, was a vassal state of the Ghaznavid dynasty. And however, after the death of Sultan Muhammad, it becomes an independent state and ruled by the brothers Ghiyasuddin Ghori. Muizuddin Muhammad, also known as Muhammad Ghori. And unlike Sultan Muhammad Ghori not only aspired to plunder the riches of India but also to expand his range in the country. And he started by conquering the frontier state of Multan, Sindh and Punjab. And in his quest to conquer North India, and he came into conflict with Prithviraj Chauhan. Okay. So his conquest to conquer North India, and he came into conflict with Prithviraj Chauhan. So one battle is done with the Prithviraj Chauhan. And first battle of Tarain. So it is happened in 1191 CE, and Prithviraj Chauhan, the Rajput ruler of Delhi and Ajmer, fought to Ghurid force and defeated them the first battle of Tarain. So in the first battle of Tarain, Ghori is defeated by Prithviraj Chauhan. Second battle of Tarain. So why the name is Tarain? Because these kinds of battles are happened in the plain of Tarain region. And after a year of planning, in 1192 CE, Muhammad Ghori returned to India and to avenge his defeat in the first battle. And Prithviraj tried to unify the Rajput kingdoms against the formidable threat to their territories, and the most powerful Rajput king was Raja Jayachandra of Kanauj refused to support Prithviraj, and in the second battle of Tarain, Muhammad Ghori defeated Prithviraj Chauhan and laid the foundation of Muslim rule in India. And he occupied Delhi, thereby ending Rajput rule in North India. And next is Battle of Chandwar. After occupying Delhi, Muhammad attacked Raja Jayachandra of Kanauj and defeated him at the Battle of Chandwar in 1194 CE. And this battle gave Muhammad control over most of northern India and strengthened his position in India. Next is establishment of Delhi Sultanate. After annexing Indian territories to his empire, Muhammad Ghori returned to Ghor, and he left the consolidation of Indian territories of his military general Kutubuddin Aibak, and Aibak annexed several territories in India such as Mathura, Gwalior and Malwa. Meanwhile, his Lieutenant Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khalji conquered the prosperous state of Bihar and Bengal. So after the Kutubuddin Aibak, the power was handed into Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khalji's hand, and they also conquered and they captured the Bihar and Bengal. And after the death of Muhammad Ghori in 1260, his empire split into numerous small kingdoms under various military generals. And Kutubuddin Aibak took charge of Ghori's Indian territories. He founded the Mamluk dynasty. And it is also known as slave dynasty because when he became a sultan, and Aibak was still a slave of Muhammad Ghori. The period from the inception of his rule in 12 C till 1526 C is known as the period of Delhi Sultanate, and the rulers were known as sultans, and they ruled from Delhi as their capital city. The Delhi Sultanate includes 5 dynasties: Slave dynasty, Khalji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid dynasty and Lodi dynasty. So coming to the first Mamluk or slave dynasty, and it is started by Kutubuddin Aibak. Kutubuddin Aibak acquired independent control of Ghori's vast and expensive empire in India, and his dynasty is also known as the Mamluk dynasty. And Aibak was a just and able ruler and known for his generosity and kind-heartedness, so he was given the name Lakh Baksh. He was also known as Lakh Baksh because he that givers of lakhs. He spent lots of money for the general people. He gave lots of money, and he built 2 mosques, the Kutubul Islam in Delhi and Dhai Din Ka Chopra in Ajmer. He made these 2 mosques, and he even started the construction of Qutub Minar but could not complete it. And Aibak did not add the Turkish conquest in India and died in 1210 CE when he fell off a horse while playing pole. And next is Iltutmish. And after the death of Aibak, his son-in-law Shamsuddin Iltutmish took over the throne of slave dynasty, and he is considered to be the real founder of Turkish ruler in India. And he was an able ruler who consolidated the scattered Ghori territories under one strong and well administered rule, and he crushed anyone who challenged his rule in India, and he destroyed the Turkish nobles who defied his claim to the throne, and suppressed the Khalji revolt in Bengal, and subjugated the rulers of Ghazni and Multan. He was recognized as sovereign Sultan of India by the Caliph of Baghdad. Okay, so he was the Caliph of Baghdad. Iltutmish also conquered the region of the Rajput rulers of Ujjain, Ranthambore, Malwa and Gwalior. So he also conquered these kinds of places, and he refused protection to the king of Khwarjim, who was being pursued by the Mongols, thereby preventing a Mongol invasion. And apart from military powers, Iltutmish had strong administrative skills, and he divided his empire into several provinces known as Iqta, which were administered by the noble class known as Iqtadar. Okay, so he also several provinces they named as Iqta. And Iltutmish created an entire new class of ruling elite and called Chalisha. So he made or created a new class of ruling elite, and they named as Chalisha, or the group of 40. And he was the first Turkish ruler to introduce a coin system. He at first introduced the coin system different from the Rajputs, and he was the patron of art and learning, and he completed the construction of the Qutub Minar started by his father-in-law, and he also built his own tomb in red sandstone in Delhi. Okay, so he completed the Qutub Minar foundation, and he also made one red sandstone in Delhi, tomb of red sandstone in Delhi. Next is Rajia, Iltutmish had nominated his daughter Razia to succeed him, and however he was succeeded by his son Rukunuddin Firoz, and his incompetence and unpopularity gave his sister Razia an opportunity to claim the throne, but Razia did not enjoy the support of the Turkish nobles. Eventually, with her political skill, she won over majority of the opposing leaders. So the Razia was political skill, and that's what they can capture the power, and he selected as a leader, and she selected as a leader, and she was a competent and brave ruler, and Razia put on the tunic and headdress of a man's attire for day-to-day administration, and she even abandoned the veil, and she appointed a non-Turkish Abyssinia slave and Malik Yakut as the superintendent of stable. This enraged the Turkish nobles, and there were rebellions in Delhi and elsewhere in the kingdom, and the Chalisha conspired and kills her in 1239 CE. Nasiruddin Muhammad, the another leader. For almost 6 years after Razia's death, the Delhi Sultan faced a lot of inner chaos and struggle for the throne. So there was the after the death of Razia, there was not any kind of good leader. Eventually, the youngest son of Iltutmish, the name is Nasiruddin Muhammad, was crowned as the next sultan, and he was a just and kind person, and but a weak ruler. He was a kind person, but he was a weak ruler, and thus the responsibility of the administration fell into the hands of the nobles, and Ghiyasuddin Balban, the leader of the Chalisha, ruled the sultanate for a lengthy period of 20 years under the shadow of Nasiruddin. Next leaders was Ghiyasuddin Balban, and after the death of Nasiruddin in 1266 CE, Ghiyasuddin Balban ascended the throne and ruled for another 20 years. And Balban's ascendancy to the throne marked the beginning of an era of centralized governance, and he reorganized the political structure of the sultan by decreasing the power of the nobles and making the sultan the absolute power in the state. So he made the sultan as an absolute powerful man, and he believed that the sultans were the representatives of God on earth and must be bestowed with equal devotion and respect. And he introduced the Persian custom of Sijda and Paibas. So he introduced also two system of Persian, the name is Sijda and Paibas, and anybody in his presence was expected to bow down and touch their forehead on the ground in respect and kiss the feet on the sultan. So this was the two system of is regulated by Ghiyasuddin Balban. That one was Sijda. Sijda means that ground in respect, and kiss to feet, it is called as Paibas. These two traditions are regulated by the Ghiyasuddin Balban. Balban followed a policy of blood and iron and crushed any rebellion with a heavy hand, and he kept the nobility under strict control and created a strong spy system to keep them in check. So he engaged some people for controlling all the systems, and they try to find any kind of problem is there or not, and he established security and stability in the kingdom by strengthening the army, and this led to favorable condition for the development of agriculture, trade and commerce in the city, and which led to prosperity in the kingdom. And Balban also fortified his kingdom to prevent the invasion of the Mongols and others. Balban died in 1286 CE, and his successors were weak and incompetent, and the slave dynasty came to an end within 3 years of Balban's death. Okay, so the slave dynasty came to an end within the 3 years of Balban's death, and in 1290 CE, Jalaluddin Khilji, the governor of Samana, occupied Delhi by military coup and declared himself as the sultan. So he declared himself as a sultan, and the Khilji dynasty took over the reins of the Delhi Sultanate. Okay, so this was the stages.